This week, we are going to be mood reading some popular books off my TBR. Hello, friends and readers. I am back with another reading vlog this week. I do pretty much every single week a reading vlog. I do work 40 hours a week, so I try to read about 2 books in a week. And my 40-hour work week is a combo of being in person and working from home. So it does help with a little bit of my reading schedule in the evenings and afternoons when I work from home. With reading 2 books in a week, specifically because I love to read, but also for some reading vlog ideas, I try to find creative ways to get books off my TBR or pick books for my TBR. A few weeks ago, I did a video concept where I read 2 books that I had been avoiding on my TBR, and we're doing the exact opposite today. We're going to be picking up 2 books on my TBR that I really want to read. I've been seeing these, and in my opinion, they are popular books in the book world. I see them all over my feed. Now, maybe that is catered to my reading preferences and who I like to watch on YouTube and TikTok, but nonetheless, these seem right up my alley and I'm in the mood to just mood read. So that's what we're going to do. And I do have the first book of the week ready to go. I'm going to start reading it now. It is, what is it? Today is words. Today's Thursday. I just got off work, so I'm going to read a little bit of this first book that I have been highly anticipating, and I couldn't be more excited for the week ahead. So let's get started. Hello. It has been 24 hours since I started the first book of this reading vlog, and that is The Bright Years by Sarah DeMoff. I have had this book on my TBR because of all of the bookish recommendations for it. If you even go on Goodreads or Fable or whichever story/book tracker that you are using or app that you're using, this book is so highly rated. Lots of ratings, lots of reviews, and they're all like 4 and 5 stars. All of the bookish people that I follow and keep up with their reviews and their ratings have rated it a 5 star. I don't know that I've come across someone on my algorithm that hasn't rated this so highly. And because of that, I was like, of course I'm going to read it, even if everyone says that it's a very sad and heavy story. 5 stars everywhere. Part of me is a bit intimidated by the 5-star reads that are so highly recommended. One that I can think back on is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I had heard raving reviews all over the place about that book, so it was a bit scary to pick it up because what if you don't like it and everyone else did? Which of course is going to happen to some people, but I ended up really enjoying Atmosphere. Also gave it a 5 stars, and so far so good on The Bright Years. This is the first book that I have ever read by Sarah DeMoff. I do think that Sarah DeMoff only has 3 books, and the explanation there is that the first book is something biblical, I think, and so The Bright Years is sort of like a debut fiction novel. And then I think Bright Years came out April 2025, so last year around this time. Sarah DeMoff's next book is coming out, or her next fiction book, so her second book. It's coming out It's coming out in May, so not that long from now. So I thought, what better perfect time to pick up The Bright Years before a new release by Sarah DeMoff and see how I like this author's writing style. So this is a literary fiction. I've been saying this to myself more than anyone else, that I am falling in love with literary fiction. I would have been a self-proclaimed romance reader, but I think that has changed to literary fiction instead, and that makes me excited. I think what I like so much about this category of books is how it's character driven. To some people that might be boring, but to me it feels real and it encompasses real life a little bit better, and sometimes it can be hard for me to read books that don't seem like they are realistic. I am really enjoying the length of this book so far. I am on page 116 out of only 271 pages, so we're approaching halfway, not that far from it, and I think a book under 300 pages is just the perfect length. I also, before I put this down forever, just want to talk about how beautiful this cover is. It feels so springy and so atmospheric, but I will say this book is pretty heavy already, a little bit heartbreaking. Does not give spring summery vibes like the cover does, at least not yet. So we're gonna to get into a little bit of the summary of what this book is even about. I've come into this 116 pages blind. I actually read the little dust jacket blurb to see maybe what the summary tells you about that I might not have already read, and something felt a little bit spoiler to me on the summary of this, so I am not going to say that. We are following multiple timelines in this book, bouncing between, I think the earliest is the 1970s, and then present day. We're so far 116 pages into the 2000s, the early 2000s, so we're definitely jumping back and forth. We are following a married couple, Ryan and Lillian. I think that there are going to be multiple point of views in this book, but so far I do think I'm only getting Lillian's point of view. Ryan and Lillian get married and they are the happiest couple in the world. Lillian has a past with relationships, and so entering in a relationship with Ryan is like a breath of fresh air until it's not. They're so happy, they get married, and they have a kid. That kid's name is Jet, which is short for Georgette. Despite this, Lillian is hiding something from her husband, and while Lillian's hiding that, Ryan is also hiding something. As we jump back and forth between present day and the past, we are watching every few years of Jet's life, and while we are updating on what Jet is growing up to do, we're also updating on how Ryan and Lillian's relationship has evolved. And how I'm feeling so far, I am feeling really good despite how heavy this book already is. There are certainly some trigger warnings that you should pay attention to before reading this story, but I am really enjoying Sarah DeMoff's writing style and how she can write in simple sentences that describe so clearly an event that's taking place and make it feel so real. It is a Friday night, so I plan on reading and maybe even listening to this tomorrow while I clean my neighbor's house, and I would maybe hope to finish this book by Saturday or Sunday. I think that I'm going to fly through the second half of this story because I just want to go shower, eat dinner, and sit down and read this book. So feeling good about the pressure of all the rating and reviews so far, but hey, that could change. We'll see. I'll update you once I finish. We have finally finished The Right Years by Sarah DeMoff, and I want to just go ahead and start by saying that it is a 4-star for me, so very high rating, and I really enjoyed my time reading this book. Today is Sunday, so I finished it this morning. Like I said before, what a great length of a book, under 300 pages. With this being in the fiction genre, it is definitely a whirlwind of emotions that Sarah DeMoff takes you on. This is not your happy, springy, lucky go literary fiction. This is real life. This is character driven, and it's one of those endings where you might not feel satisfied because it's not a perfect happy ending, and that is because that is life. Since I last talked to you, we followed the timeline of our little girl initially in the beginning of Ryan and Lillian growing up. Jet made it all the way into her adulthood by the end of this book. So while we were going from year to year to year growing, we were also still flashing back to the past. And by the end of it, we got 3 parts in the story. We did have 3 different perspectives. I think that my favorite perspective was Lillian's, the mother's, in the very beginning. With that being said, I related to our character Jet so much. While it seems she was a little bit older than me by the time she grew up, her childhood felt so nostalgic, and Sarah DeMoff did such a good job at writing little things about her childhood that made me relate to her. For instance, she had a Nokia phone when she was growing up and used it to text her friend. A Nokia phone is so nostalgic. I too had a Nokia phone that my dog ate because I left it outside. Something about making her friend watch the movie Coyote Ugly. When I was little, I was obsessed with the movie Coyote Ugly. I definitely should not have been watching it, but again, oh well. And I haven't heard someone mention the name of that movie in years, and now I need to go back and watch that movie. I couldn't believe it. I think there was also another part where she was obsessed with wearing white Chuck Taylors. I too, obsessed. So Jet was very nostalgic. I could see a lot of myself in Jet, and I really loved her as a character. Halfway through reading this book, I had to shed the dust jacket. I really like the feeling of a dust jacket. It makes me feel accomplished for some reason when I'm reading a hardback book, but it is very hard to read with. It just slips on and off, and you can't get comfy. So a lot of the times I just took that off, and there's this pretty bright yellow book cover underneath of it, which does not summarize what's going on. It's not pretty and bright bright yellow in this book. All I will say about the ending of this story and how we follow Lillian, Ryan, and Jet throughout the years, I hate generational trauma. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate that is something that people go through, and some people can break it and some people can't. This author really makes you feel the feels for all of these characters. And then the title breakdown, a lot of times I'll read a book and I won't come back to the title of the book. I won't find the significance, or it just won't ring a bell in my head when I'm reading, like, oh yeah, that's what the title means. This one, you so specifically can understand what the title means from the beginning, and then how you reflect back on it at the end is just heartbreaking. It really is. I think that we have a really great author if this is their debut fiction novel, which makes me so excited to pick up The Burning Side, which is number 2 fiction, number 3 altogether for Sarah DeMoss in May. I think it was perfect timing to go ahead and read this book, get it out of the way, and will certainly keep Sarah DeMoss on now a list of writers to keep up with, or authors to keep up with. So feeling really good about it. I am glad it was on my TBR. I am so glad that I read it. While it wasn't a 5-star, it was very close. And as it says on the front, a heartbreaker and heart mender all at once, it definitely broke my heart, and I don't know if it mended my heart or not. It is now Sunday, so I am going to start the second book of this reading vlog of mood reading and getting books off my TBR that I was really excited for. And that book is going to be on my Kindle Unlimited. So I'm going to get to that and update you probably tomorrow sometime once I've made it a little bit of the ways through. I do work in person tomorrow, so I might listen to it a little bit on Spotify Premium if it's there for my drive into work. But I'm super excited. Talk to you later. Hello. It is now Monday afternoon. It's like 6:37 p.m. I went to work today, and last night I read Direbound by Sable Sorensen, and then I read, or listened, I always say that, listened on the way to my work today with Spotify Premium hours, on my way home from work today, and now it's the evening time. I've eaten dinner. I'm probably gonna go on a walk, listen even more, and then of course I will be continuing to read this book. I am so glad we are mood reading this week. I am so glad I picked this book up. I found out that Sable Sorensen is a pen name for actually 2 authors, not their actual name. Fun fact, it is a pen name, which I think is just so fun. It seems like they were just fantasy readers or writers and wanted to put out a nice, good, dark fantasy romance with fantasy with romance, whatever you want to call it. It's adult fantasy or adult romantasy, and I have found more and more these days that I appreciate adult fantasy way more than young adult fantasy. I'm trying to shy away, as I want to rate young adult fantasy 3 stars, whereas adult fantasy finds itself being 4 and 5 stars for me. This book, Direbound, is a part of what I think is going to be a trilogy called The Wolves of Ruin. So we are on book 1, and this book was released last year in 2025. We do have a release date for book number 2. I think that's called Furybound, and it's actually coming out in May. Mind you, it is now almost the end of March, so I'm only about a month and a half or less than a month and a half out from book number 2, and I'm so glad that I didn't read this book like last year and had to wait all this time, because I'm having the best time ever, and I will be picking up book number 2 as soon as it comes out. And then with the release rate of these authors, I feel like that means book number 3, which I think is the final book in the series, will come out sometime next year. This book was so highly rated. If you go on Goodreads or Fable, it has above a 4-star with lots and lots of reviews. The only creator that I watch, I think I have seen rate this book, is Emmy Rossum. Emmy seems like the queen of reading fantasy books, and so I always take their recommendations highly when I watch their videos, and this was one of those that they raved about, so I put it on my TBR immediately. And then my coworker read it recently, was like, girl, you need to read read this. And she wasn't wrong. And I did find that I wanted to read more books with wolves in it and fantasy with wolves in it after reading Ali Hazelwood's series Bride and Mate. That really, aside from growing up watching Twilight movies, was my big introduction to wolves and bonding and mates and such in fiction. And the big plus is that this book, Direbound, is on Kindle Unlimited. So got to read it what feels like for free with my monthly subscription. And then there were some blurbs that made me really excited to want to pick this book up. The blurbs were that it was giving Hunger Games meets Fourth Wing, and I thought, okay, we'll give it a try, see if that's really what it feels like, and it is. That is spot on. I read all of the Fourth Wing books out. I think there's 3 books out in that series, all back to back in January and February of last year, so it's been a little bit over a year since I read them, and I've been looking for something that just feels like that, and this is it. And of course, Hunger Games is so nostalgic. I grew up with the Hunger Games series, and I'm still growing up with these prequels coming out, and it gives those vibes exactly. So what is Direbound even about? I'll give you a little short synopsis based off what I've read so far, and also what you can find on the back of the book. We live in a world where the common folk, so the lower class folks, are just scraping to get by. Our main character in this story is Marin, and I do think we're only following Marin's point of view. Marin is working to make ends meet to help out her sister and her mom, and so are the rest of the people in her city. The thing that plagues this city is what they're calling grabbers. Essentially, these grabbers come in the middle of the night and pick out little kids, basically kidnap them from their beds and take them away. And they report these kids as missing, but no one can find these kids. No one really knows for sure what's happening to them. They've all assumed that the grabbers are taking the kids to what's called the siphons, essentially what seems like the enemy of this kingdom. The siphons are draining all of the blood from the kids to become more powerful themselves. It's hard to sleep at night thinking that your sister or your brother could be the next one taken by the grabbers. And specifically Marin, because she does have a little sister. And then these are going to be your common people. And of course, when you have your common people in a story, you also have your wealthy people. The wealthy people are what are known as typically the bonded. They have generations of families who have bonded with the all-powerful dire wolves. Enter the wolves, the massive, massive, massive creatures. The way they describe these dire wolves, they seem so majestic and mystical and mythical and massive. I think that they say that they are larger than horses. So huge. The wealthy, of course, bond to these dire wolves across generations. How do you bond to the dire wolves? This is by random trial at random times in the years. And of course, this random trial to test people to bond to these wolves happens when our main character, Marin, joins the war efforts. This kingdom is at war with the siphons, the bad guys, and Marin joins the war effort for a particular reason that you will find out. And it just so happens that when she joins, they have the random trials. So Marin and all of these other people, who mostly all of them are part of this wealth class, they're prepared for these bonding trials. They in fact want to be a part of these bonding trials. It's all that they worked for their whole lives. And then some commoners who just happen to join the war efforts and now also randomly have to go to the trials. So they do this crazy task that requires for them to exert a lot of energy, risk their lives to see if they can make it to the top and see if a wolf will choose them. This is where it really feels like Fourth Wing. If you have read Fourth Wing, it's basically the same thing as their trials to bond with the dragons, but this time with dire wolves. And I won't say much about our character Marin bonding with a wolf other than the fact that she does end up bonding with one begrudgingly, and that wolf does not want to communicate with her. Things are certainly changing in Marin's life now that she is bonded with this wolf. But despite initially bonding with him, they now have to go through 4 more months of trials to make sure they can stay bonded. So no one is safe. You may have made it across the mountain or up the mountain and down and have your dire wolf now, but that doesn't mean you're going to survive the next 4 months. And I'm just super excited to continue reading and listening to see how all of these humans interact with their dire wolves. I really hope that we get to lean into a little bit more of Marin and her relationship with her dire wolf, since there's basically none right now. I will say 33% of the way in, it's feeling like a 5-star. I was giggling on the way home listening, and I just am excited to figure out what's going to happen over the next, I don't know, nearly 400 pages. I will update you if I get a little bit more of the ways in. Talk to you later. It has been 24 hours since I last picked up the camera, and we are on chapter 44, page 439, 75% of the way through this book. At my reading speed, it looks like it'll take us about just under 2.5 hours to finish this book. It is a Tuesday. I did just get home from work. I'm gonna eat dinner and honestly pick this book back up immediately. I read any free chance I could at work today, listened to it on my way to and from work, and I am just so addicted. It's so good. I can't put it down. I want to finish this book tonight or first thing tomorrow before work. I am obsessed. I don't see how this isn't going to be a 5-star read for me. I hate to say that, but what is it? 25% more left, and it's just too good. It's just too good. I'm having such a good time. I do have my iPad over here because I took some notes. I have some things to say without being spoilery. First update is that I think I said that the people kidnapping the kids were grabbers. I was wrong. They're nabbers. I got them confused because they grabbed the kids in the middle of the night, but they're called nabbers. Despite them being nabbers, the siphons, the ones that the nabbers are bringing the kids to, are really the main enemy in this plot. And then I am trying to grapple with what they call these basically new recruits, new people who have bonded to the dire wolves. They call them Rawbonds, and essentially the Rawbonds are going through 4 months of training and trials. And at the end of the 4 months, if you're still bonded to your dire wolf, then you are essentially then the bonded. Our main character, Marin, got in a scuff, a little tit for tat, and she decided to cut off all of her hair. She has this long, luscious hair, and now she has a bob. And just because of the internet and the trends, I can't think of bobs appropriately. I'm just thinking of bob. And so now I think about her often. I usually never see appearances when I'm reading. It totally slips my mind, the description of what people look like, but I can't get rid of the bob thoughts and allegations for Marin. Okay, and now the next things I'm going to say are just going to be no context, can't explain. First thing is yuck, the king. Blech. Second thing is tattoos. And then, just as an update, there is a lot happening. We originally start with Marin, and the whole reason why Marin wants to get involved and ends up having to go through these bonding trials is because she wants to join the war efforts to get to the front line for a particular reason. For a large part of this, you almost lose sight of that reason because of so much other plot. Lots of different avenues that our main characters are going down with the dire wolves and those trials and the bonding and all of those things. You lose sight of the original reason this book starts out with, and that leaves a lot of holes. Now, this is book 1 of what is going to be 3, and so I'm curious if in the last few pages we're going to get answers to those plot holes, or if we have to wait for book 2 and book 3. I've written down all the ones that I have caught, and it has just been so fun paying attention because I normally don't find myself looking for the plot holes. I really enjoy that there are balls in this. I don't know why, but the characters dressing up, looking really fancy schmancy and going to the balls, despite the purpose of the balls, is fun for me to read. So far, my jaw has dropped multiple times on the floor. I had to pick it up. I read a part at work today on my lunch break where I was like, audibly needed to gasp, but was surrounded by my coworkers, so probably not the best thing to do. The last thing will be no context is I want this book to go a certain place, and if it goes the place I want it to go, my only question is, does he know and is he not telling her? And I hope so. And to finish out with the plot, someone is lying in this story, and I know who's lying, at least I assume I know who's lying, and I'm curious when we'll get to the bottom of that. And then one other warning, it's pretty brutal when you see these dire wolves and war and just the nature of trials in this story. A lot of people are dying, and they're dying in brutal ways. And then now, actually, here's my final thought. I am liking this concept of wolves in a fantasy story. I think maybe more than I liked the concept of wolves in Mate by Ali Hazelwood. As I said, I don't have much to compare to. In Mate with Ali Hazelwood and even Bride, those are the humans shifting into wolves. That's not the case in this story. We have our humans, and they are separate from their dire wolves other than the bond that they share. So our humans aren't shifting into wolves, which can sometimes seem a little bit too unrealistic when you read it. That's not the case here. They're separate entities, separate beings. The wolves function differently than the humans. That is sometimes an easier fantasy world for me to step into, it seems. That's all for the update. I will get back to you once I finish this book. I'm so excited. I'm giggling. I can't wait to see how it ends, and I'm so ready for book number 2 already. Let's see how much longer until I finish. Okay, okay. I'm just going to go out and say it because I've said it the rest of this video. I've just finished Firebound by Sable Sorensen, and it's a 5 star. It is so clearly a 5 star to me. I haven't felt this way with a fantasy book in particular for a long time, and it's exactly what I want to read when I read romantasy. It's an easy 5 star. I was so excited to continue to pick it up, and now I'm sad that I have to put it down because I finished it. I thought I had more left in the story because my Kindle said 20 more minutes left to read. It wasn't more, it was just all of the acknowledgments and whatever was at the end. And now I cannot wait for May 5th, I think is when this next book comes out. I will be picking it up as soon as I can in May. I'll keep this short and sweet because I've yapped so much about this book already. If it's on your TBR, just go ahead and pick it up, especially if you like Hunger Games, you like trials, you like balls, you like fourth wing and bonding with animals. That's one thing that really makes me sad that I've come to find out with Fourth Wing and now this story with Firebound is I get so sad when there's a bonding element between a human and an animal, and if the human has to die, then the animal also dies when they're bonded. I hate that. I wish that wasn't a part of it. I get that it adds to the story and makes it what it is, but I don't like it. You learn so much in the last 100 pages of this book. Since I last talked to you yesterday, I did answer some questions that I had from plot points throughout the whole story, but there are still some that are a little bit blurry and I don't know, and that's probably because we have 2 and 3 coming out in the next year or so. So still a many of questions. I'm glad that I took notes on them so that I can look back at them when the next book comes out and see if they're answered in book number 2. May just can't come fast enough. And that's pretty much it. I am starting to understand what I like, and so when I get to pick those books in a video like this, I get to rate them highly, like a 4 and a 5 star. So it was a great week for reading, and it's Wednesday night, so we are gonna watch some Survivor and pick up with another reading vlog tomorrow. That's all. Bye for now.